The theme of the double. The theme of the double, or of the existence of two sides in every man and woman, has its remote origins in the metaphysical tendency of every human being who, from prehistoric times, wonders about his material and spiritual nature. The term double derives from the Latin duplus, and it is in classical times that its first appearance in literature is traced. It was the playwright Plautus, 2nd century before Christ, who created characters who led different lives in different contexts. Shrewd servants who changed masks when necessary. When the two characters clashed in one, misunderstandings arose the tension. It was the comic turn of the story. However, it's in English literature at the turn of the 19th and the 20th centuries that the theme of the double knows its most flourishing period. One of the first novels where we can see an example of the double nature of human soul is Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley. Even though the writer did not live in the Victorian era, she was a great forerunner of this theme. Victor Frankenstein, the scientist, creates a monster that in a certain way represents his heavy double. In fact, Frankenstein says of his monster that he is his own spirit, his creature born from his hands, and his obsession for scientific research. Another thing that joins creator and creature is the desire of revenge one another, with the consequence of the death of the scientist at the hands of the monster. There is also another couple of double characters, Frankenstein and Captain Walton. They are two overreachers. In the scientist, we can see the consequences of this attitude, too confident in science and increasingly unaware of the power of nature. Now we have to answer a question. Why did it all start in the UK? In the historical and cultural context of the second half of the Victorian era, we find the answer. We speak, in fact, of Victorian compromise that mirrors up the real aim of all these authors. They all want to denounce and criticize the hypocrisy of middle class, the leading class of the time. It was a period full of contradictions. On the one hand, there was the progress guaranteed by the Industrial Revolution, the rising wealth of the upper and middle classes, and the expanding power of Britain and its empire. On the other hand, there was poverty, disease, and injustice faced by the working classes. The values of the church, family, and home were fundamental. The family unit was based around the strict father, with the mother in a submissive role. Morality and respectability were key values. It's clear that the morals, beliefs, and values of the Victorian were not reflected in the reality of the society. In this way, a double face is created in the wealthier classes. That of the rich Victorian moralizer who goes to church every Sunday and does charity, and that of the Victorian of the night who gives in to the most dreadful vices and takes advantages from the work of the poor proletarians. The other historical event is colonialism and the imperialist expansion of the English kingdom, particularly in Black Africa, where Conrad will set Heart of Darkness. Let's move now to the great classic novels that better exemplifies the theme of the double. Jekyll is a scientist who can't stand the most indecent and superficial part of himself. In other words, he wants to remove the side that occasionally gives into vices. He wants to be a perfect and strict example of composed morality. For this reason, by drinking a potion, he manages to separate his hidden part, but not to eliminate it. Often, at night, in the dark streets of London, Mr. Hyde shows himself, gets out of control of reason, and commits lethal crimes. In the letter of confession, Dr. Jekyll says to have killed himself to remedy his mistake and announces the discovery of at least two parts of the human soul, which could be many more. This final prophetic sentence will come through in the thesis of the father of psychoanalysis, Freud, the id, the ego, and the superego. Dorian Gray is a young, handsome man, heir to a wealthy family. A painter, Basil Howard, will paint a wonderful portrait of him. This painting will be his alter ego. In fact, by selling his soul to the devil, Dorian has obtained the eternal youth of his body. The effects of old age and his evil moods and actions will be visible only on the painted canvas and not on his face. In the end, his acting life will be unbearable for Dorian, who, tearing the picture with a knife, will take his life and show who he really was. The importance of being earnest. My name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country. This is the real double nature of the protagonist of the story. Earnest, not so honest. Pretends to be two different people. He always tells Cecilia that he goes to visit his brother Ernest, when actually he is his brother who runs away from the countryside to enjoy the charm of city life. Also, Algernon, the best friend of Jack, admits that he has also done something similar. He explains, I have invented an invaluable, permanent invalid called Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go down into the country whenever I choose. Algernon tells his family that he has to go to visit his sick friend. Actually, it's only a way to escape the traps of life and at any time to avoid being involved in family duties. At the end, these daisies will be revealed and the story will end in a happy ending. Kurtz, the colonizer lost in the forest of the Congo, can be considered as a double of Captain Marlowe, a sort of evolution of him in another social and geographical context. It's easy to assume, given the captain's empathy with the natives, that he could have become like Kurtz if exposed for a long time to this coexistence between white and black men. They are two similar personalities, also in their characters, both outcast, respected, motivated, curious, cunning, brave, and fascinated by exploration. In the end, Kurtz will die in front of Marlowe after pronouncing the word horror. The real reason for his madness was the absence of the usual moral and social rules, and above all, the tortures he had been forced to see. We are certainly all different in the different contexts we live in, but there are no potions, portraits, or excuses to escape the rules with which we have to live. and the obstacles that we can only overcome. To conclude, I think there are no better explanation than Oscar Wilde one, who speaks with its paradoxes more than books filled with many words. Be yourself, everyone else is already taken.